We are back with another video. This one is a short one. Basically, I had been asked several times in the last couple months about which classes are good for what things. So this video is basically just going to be going over those really quickly. So let's get started. Starting with the first three, you've got the warrior class. Now this is primarily the best farming class when it comes to taking out multiple enemies because it does have AoE attacks. For the mage class, the biggest advantage it has is the range distance. This is one of those ranging classes and you should take full advantage of that. You could be kiting bosses with it. It's a little bit easier to do on PC than it is on mobile, but it is still possible. Next is the rogue. Now this one here is kind of useless. If you were to use this, then this would definitely be a solo monster fight. I wouldn't necessarily use this for bosses, even though it does have a DOT, a damage over time. It's not more effective than the warrior. The warrior still has higher DPS, so if you were going to be taking on a boss with a melee, I would be going with the warrior, not rogue. Ultimately, I would be going for the mage if out of these three beginning classes, if I'm going against a boss. Guardian class is a great support class, one of my favorite in fact, because of the healing effects that it has. This can also take down bosses pretty easily. If you find you're having trouble in a dungeon, or if you are with a group that's not quite as tough as you want them to be, then run the Guardian. This is going to be helping not just you, but them as well. Dragon Slayer, believe it or not, is a pretty powerful class. I consider the DPS for this pretty high. Not quite as high as the pirate class, but still pretty darn close. The nice bonus to this is that it has a range attack. So this one here really does help aggro the enemies. And again, this is not really something you'd be wanting to fight multiple enemies at one time with. This is definitely more of a solo mob type of thing, but this can be good for bosses or good for farming, so this is a pretty good overall class. Pirate class, or the Alpha Pirate, which is basically the exact same class, just a different skin. This thing here has amazing DPS, and this is pretty much good for almost anything. You can kite bosses with it, so it comes in really handy for taking out bosses. It's also good for farming because in the amount of time that you can use the warrior to take down 3 enemies, the pirate could probably do it the exact same amount of time due to the DPS being higher than warrior. The Paladin is weak. I will tell you that right now. As far as DPS is involved, this thing does not have very much output. However, this thing is extremely durable. So if you have a hard time taking out a boss because he's pummeling you, the Paladin is definitely a good choice. There is no kiting involved when you're using this thing, but it is a great choice because it's got high defense. The Necromancer is a pretty much overall general good class. It's good for farming, although not as powerful as the pirate or the warrior. So if you're taking on multiple enemies, it's quicker to use the pirate or the warrior. If you're just getting new into the game, this is something you would definitely want to go for. Ninja class is by far the most complicated class, and unfortunately it's the complexity of this thing that it's not a horrible class, it's just so complicated that you can't really just enjoy farming regularly when you're having to constantly think about what you want to do next. Do you want to buff your attack? Do you want to boost your mana? So it is a great class, but if you're just starting out in this game, this is something you don't want to go for right away because this will be basically sitting in your inventory doing nothing. As far as taking out bosses, this is not really one that I would go for. If it's for farming, this is great for farming. It does have decent DPS, so you can definitely do some good damage with it. And honestly, the damage is high enough you could do multiple mobs as well, but if I were doing multiple enemies at one time, I would probably stick to pirate or warrior because those would still be my 2 main ones I'd rather go for instead of this. Monglomancer is a support class. That is basically the best way of putting it. I put this into the same category as Paladin or Guardian. I also find it takes quite a bit of mana, but it is a fun class to use with the buffs and the heals. However, if you're looking for a class with DPS, this is not one you want to go for. If you want to be helping out your teammates, this is definitely one you could go for, but it is also just fun to use. Next is the Berserker, and this is one of my favorite just because of the idea behind this thing. Now this can pretty much do the mob fighting. You can take on multiple enemies at a time, and you can also take down bosses, but you need to be careful because this thing is worthless if you don't have it below 50 HP or 50% HP. Now the lower your HP, the more damage you're going to be doing, so you want to make sure that you're doing a lot of damage, which means your HP has to be pretty low. If you keep your HP in the 30% category, this thing can be doing a lot of damage on mobs or bosses, but again, you got to make sure you're not going to get one hit, so keep those potions ready. Otherwise, when you know how to use this class, it is a really good class when it comes to just farming regular mobs or on taking bosses. But again, you gotta make sure you've got to keep that HP fairly low without getting too low. That is it for the current classes, so I hope this video does help some of you guys out there who have been wondering what the classes are good for, and I will probably have to update this eventually when more classes come out. For the set of the day, I'm going with this thing right here. I thought this was awesome. First of all, not just the actual set, but the name itself, Derpy Corn. That is excellent. Everything seems to fall in place here, so I thought it was really good. It has this gladiator type style, but it's also whimsical with the swimsuit and the shoes. The color coordinating was really good, so I thought this one made it into the set of the day. And that is it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.